Miss Delancey, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing 21 of my most highly anticipated book releases in the year of 2021. Most of these selections are going to be coming from the romance and fantasy genres just because those are the two genres I find myself leaning towards as of late. However, there will be some selections, a couple that are contemporary and one sci-fi and one thriller for reasons that you guys will soon learn. But without further ado, let's jump into the list. I also have Dory here. She is my family's latest rescue dog and she's hanging out with me for today. So if you hear any whimpering, that is probably her. So the first book on my list has actually already been released. I believe it was released on January 5th, and that is Lore. This is a young adult fantasy. I was drawn to it because, for whatever reason, finding that I'm interested in picking up a couple of Greek mythology retellings this year, I'm just kind of interested. Though this isn't entirely a retelling, from what I gathered from the synopsis, it's more so like ancient Greek mythology meets the Hunger Games. Every so many years, a handful of Greek gods are pulled from Mount Olympus and they are put into mortal bodies, and if another mortal is able to kill them, they are able to take their power and become a Greek god themselves. I just thought it was a really neat concept, so I thought I would add it to my list. Moving into February, we have a faux love story. This is a young adult contemporary romance, kind of like a star-crossed lover's tale. We're following two Vietnamese American teenagers as they fall in love and then have to navigate their relationship as their families feud over their neighboring competing restaurants. Since it's being released in February, it's perfect for Valentine's Day, if not a great read for the spring and summer seasons. Also in February, but kind of a different story, is What Big Teeth. This is a young adult dark fantasy, almost kind of a horror book about a girl who returns from boarding school and she doesn't know much about her family. She just remembers that they're kind of like creatures of the night, not monsters, but kind of monstrous. So think the Addams Family, Coraline, those kind of vibes. And there's a mysterious death in the family, dark secrets start coming out, and this girl teams up with some of the ghosts of her relatives to solve the family mystery. Moving into March, we have Down Comes the Night by Alison Sapp. This is a young adult, also dark fantasy, but does definitely have its romantic elements to it. This is a story about a young girl with magical abilities who is summoned to the manor of a reclusive lord to help cure one of his servants of a really mysterious illness. The manor itself is on its last leg. It's about to crumble to the ground. The story is set in the dead of winter, and there is one rule she has to follow. She is not allowed to leave her bedroom after dark. Turns out there is a dark evil residing within this manor that has the potential to completely destroy the kingdom that they live in. I believe there is an enemies to lovers trope within this story, and there's also LGBTQ representation. Next up on the list is Act Your Age, Evie Brown. This is the third book in the Brown Sisters series. I have not read any of the books in this series, but I really want to, so I wanted to include this book on my list. Hopefully an upcoming video will include this series, but I don't know a whole lot. I know it involves a bed and breakfast, the hospitality industry. I also wanted to include it because I know in the online romance community these books have been so well received. I think the last book, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, so many people loved it, said it was phenomenal, so hopefully I will be getting to these books very soon. Next up on the list we have Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. This is listed on Goodreads as young adult fiction, but it sounds more like adult fiction, so I can't entirely say for sure. It's the story of two estranged sisters who are forced to live together again once one of them is diagnosed with uterine cancer. It kind of sounds like The Odd Couple, but with a sisterly twist, and of course this is a much more serious story. I am drawn to this book because I really liked Emergency Contact, also by Mary H.K. Choi. I really like her writing. I think it's really unique. It has a bite to it and she's really sassy. So I am interested to see what she does in this upcoming book. Now moving into April, we have The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is, I think, the third book in the Bone and Ashes series. Again, this is one of those situations where I haven't read any of the books in the series, but I want to so badly. I hear about this series all the time in the online romance community. Everybody is talking about it. I think it involves a bodyguard and a stubborn maiden who has magical powers, a lot of steamy scenes, a lot of angst. It sounds sounds wonderful, so I had to include this on my list. Next up, we got Witches Steeped in Gold. This is a young adult Jamaican-inspired fantasy. I have never heard of that before, so I immediately was drawn to it. So this story involves two witches who are mortal enemies. One of them is a prisoner within this kingdom, and the other one is the daughter of the queen, though she's not too big a fan of her mom. Though they are technically pitted against one another, they join forces to take down a mutual enemy. Seems like it's got a lot of angst, betrayal, and a really great revenge plot, so I'm definitely interested. And finally, in April, we have Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez. This is the third book in the Friend Zone, I guess you could say, universe or series. I read the first book, The Friend Zone, and I really enjoyed it. I'm also really drawn to this book because I love the author as a person. I read her bio recently, and Abby Jimenez is just a total badass. She won a Food Network cooking show or baking show, and then she went on to become a best-selling romance author. She is like professional hero in my eyes, at least. I think she is so cool. So I definitely want to read more of her books. In this one, I believe it centers around a jet-setting YouTuber who, for whatever reason, has to look after her niece for the unforeseeable future, and she's totally out of her element. And her next-door neighbor, who is a lawyer, he ends up helping her. It's not really enemies to lovers, it's more like opposites attract, and it seems really lighthearted and fun, so I'm definitely interested. There are a ton of books I'm interested in coming out in May. The first one is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Also, opposites attract kind of situation, but in this one, the two love interests start out as best friends, and they have this thing going on where for the past decade, like every summer, they would go on a vacation together, a platonic vacation. But the story opens where 2 years ago, something happened and they are no longer speaking to each other, no contact whatsoever, and the female protagonist, I think her name is Poppy, she reaches out to Alex and convinces him to come on vacation with her one last time so they can get closure over what exactly happened, whatever that means, and of course romance ensues. Next up is the one thriller I have on my list. It is a young adult thriller, and that is The Ivies by Alexa Dunn. I wanted to include this book because Alexa Dunn is actually a YouTuber. She's in the AuthorTube community, and I found her videos recently. She's great, so if you ever want writing tips, I would definitely recommend her. I'll link her channel down below, and I just want to promote her work and support everything she does. So this is a college admissions scandal gone terribly wrong kind of a story. We follow a clique of high school girls who will stop at nothing to get into the Ivy League schools of their choice, even if that means murder. Moving back into romance, the romance author duo formerly known as Christina Lauren is back with another book. This one is called The Soulmate Equation. It's an adult contemporary romance. Our female protagonist is a single mom named Jess, and she does not believe in true love until a dating service comes along, kind of like 23andMe, where they take your DNA and genetically match you to, or I guess you could say your genetic soulmate. Do you want down? So Jess tries it out, and lo and behold, she is matched with somebody she already knows who she is not a big fan of, so you're gonna get that kind of enemies to lovers trope going on. I think this could potentially be a really great novel for anyone who really likes romance books that involve dating apps or like books that shed commentary on kind of like modern dating trends. Next up, we have Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This is, I believe, Jennifer Saint's debut novel. It is an adult fantasy and, of course, a retelling of Greek mythology. That is what drew me to this book. It is a retelling of the ancient Greek myth of Theseus and the Minotaur. And if you're a big fan of, I believe, Madeline Miller's Circe and Song of Achilles, you may want to check this book out because it could be totally up your alley. And finally, in May, we have Tokyo Ever After. Beautiful cover. This is a young adult contemporary. It's the story of a young girl who, in her senior year of high school, she finds out that she is actually a Japanese princess. And the book is marketed as Crazy Rich Asians meets Princess Diaries. There's romance, court drama. It sounds like a really fun, just good old-fashioned coming-of-age story. I think perfect for the spring and summer seasons. In June, there is one book that I have my eye on, and it is, in my eyes, just so unique and so interesting. The Chosen and the Beautiful. This is an adult fantasy, historical fiction, slash kind of a retelling, spin-off. Basically, it is a Great Gatsby retelling centered on an Asian American queer character. So we're following Jordan Baker, who has it all. She has tons of money, the best education, she has great golfing skills, and she goes to all of the luxurious upper class parties, including Jay Gatsby's parties. But there are also a lot of not so great parts of her life. For one, she is adopted and she is paraded around by her adoptive parents as though she were this exotic kind of spectacle for all to see. She also has magical powers of sort. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but there are definitely fantastical elements to the story. It's got magic, mystery, as well as all of the glittery excess that we come to expect with a Great Gatsby novel. I just think it's so cool. I think it's such a neat concept, so I would love to see how the author handles this story. August is going to be another great month. One of the books I'm looking forward to is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Leigh. It is recommended to people who are fans of Leigh Bardugo's Ninth House. I am a proud member of that club. Dark academia, dark fantasy novel at a haunted, creepy old boarding school academy, and we follow these two girls as they unearth the witchcraft surrounding the academy. And the book is also marketed as sapphic dark academia, which I have not seen before. So if that interests you, that sounds like it's right up your alley, I would definitely keep this one on your radar. I hear about this book all the time on Instagram, so definitely check it out. One of the books I'm most excited about this year is also coming out in August, and that is The Heart Principle by Helen Hoang. Helen Hoang is one of my all-time favorite romance authors. I read The Kiss Quotient and The Bride Test, books 1 and 2 in this series. Both were phenomenal. This book is centered on Quan. He is kind of a playboy, bad boy. He is the CEO of an up-and-coming retail company, and the story is also following a new character named Anna who has had a crush on Quan for the longest time, but he's always been really interested in her younger sister, her newly engaged younger sister, and Anna realizes that she needs to step in and try and seduce Quan so he will leave her younger sister alone, something like that, and they end up falling in love, and then Quan realizes Anna's true intentions, and it just sounds like a big fat mess, but it sounds like a great time, and I'm so excited. I love all of the characters in Helen Hoang's books. I think she does such a great job at creating really bold, lifelike characters that feel like real people, and she always has great representation. This story in particular, I believe, deals with obsessive compulsive disorder, so I'm really excited to see how she handles that. Really looking forward to it. I may do an entire reading vlog dedicated just to this book. And then in September, speaking of favorite authors, Jay Kristoff is coming out with the first book in a new series, The Empire of the Vampire, and I am so pumped for this. This is an adult dark fantasy. Jay Kristoff is always writing dark stuff. I had no idea this was even happening, and then my friend Shelby told me a week ago, and I got so pumped. The story takes place in a world where there is no sunlight ever. It is dark 24/7, and the last sunrise was about 27 years ago, and since then creatures of the night, i.e. vampires, have totally taken over the world, and humanity has been reduced to basically a handful of scattered settlements. And I think this book is a story within a story, kind of like Nevernight. We are following the last of the Silver Saints, which is a holy order of humans that are committed to wiping out vampires. They're not doing so hot though, because we're down to the last Silver Saint, and he has been brought to trial to be executed for the assassination of the vampiric king. And I think this book is him recounting how he got there, and things just go from bad to worse. The last 3 books I'm gonna mention are potentially being released in November. They are continuations of really popular series. It's kind of up in the air. I don't know. Fingers crossed though. The first one is going to be Crescent City #2 by Sarah J. Maas. The exact title is yet to be determined. This is an adult fantasy series. I don't really know how to describe it. It's got fae, it's got angels and demons, vampires, shape-shifting humans, basically any kind of magical being you can imagine. Shove them all together in a modern day urban city setting, and you have Crescent City. First book started out as a murder mystery turned political power struggle. It was awesome. I had so much fun reading it, and the cliffhanger was painful in a good way, but also kind of vague, so I don't really know where the second book is gonna go, let alone this entire series. Sarah J. Maas, her biggest talent as a fiction writer is she writes such good drama. Her books are never boring, so hopefully this book comes out in November. Next up on the list, we have Nowhere. This is book number 3 in Brandon Sanderson's Skyward series. I did not know that this was recently named, so I think this is tentative. I don't know if it's actually going to be titled Nowhere. We'll see. It's a young adult sci-fi series, one of maybe like 2 sci-fi series that I enjoy. It's the story of a girl named Spencer who has big dreams of becoming a fighter pilot. She is part of the last human colony left standing on this desolate planet. They live underground because they're constantly being bombed by this alien force from above, and their only line of defense are their fighter pilots. And along the way, Spencer finds this mysterious ship, and she also has really unexplainable abilities, and these humans realize that there is a lot they don't know about the aliens from above. And book 2 was an explosion of new characters and locations. I feel like the universe, both literally and figuratively, like tripled in book 2 alone, so I am so pumped for book 3. I don't know where this story is gonna head. I can't wait, so again, fingers crossed. And finally, potentially in November, we are going to be getting Ninth House number 2 by Leigh Bardugo. This is an adult dark fantasy, dark academia selection. I read Ninth House, the first book, back in October or November of 2020, and I really loved it. I get though that it's not everybody's cup of tea. It's a heavy atmospheric read. Pacing is really unique, and the content is heavy and dark and bleak, but it's got ghosts, it's got the occult, and it's got pompous college students. The story is centered around the secret societies of Yale University, and each of the houses specializes in a certain type of dark magic, and our protagonist, Alex Stern, is part of the regulatory house, or the Ninth House, that oversees all of the magical rituals that happen on campus and tries to keep everything and everyone in check. Okay, you guys, that is gonna do it for this video. This little one needs to go outside, so we're gonna wrap it up here. Let me know down in the comments if there are any books that you are looking forward to this year. Otherwise, Dory and I will catch you next Tuesday for another video. Bye, you guys!